أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وما أنفقتم من نفقة أو نذرتم من نذر فإن الله يعلمه وما للظالمين من أنصار. إن تبدوا الصدقات فنعما هي وإن تخفوها وتؤتوها الفقراء فهو خير لكم ويكفر عنكم من سيئاتكم والله بما تعملون خبير. ليس عليك هداهم ولكن الله يهدي من يشاء وما تنفقوا من خير فلأنفسكم وما تنفقون إلا ابتغاء وجه الله وما تنفقوا من خير يوفى إليكم وأنتم لا تظلمون. للفقراء الذين أحصروا في سبيل الله لا يستطيعون ضربا في الأرض يحسبهم الجاهل أغنياء من التعفف تعرفهم بسيماهم لا يسألون الناس إلحافا وما تنفقوا من خير فإن الله به عليم. الذين ينفقون أموالهم بالليل والنهار سرا وعلانية فلهم أجرهم عند ربهم ولا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تلهكم أموالكم ولا أولادكم عن ذكر الله ومن يفعل ذلك فأولئك هم الخاسرون. وأنفقوا مما رزقناكم من قبل أن يأتي أحدكم الموت فيقول ربي لولا أخرتني إلى أجل قريب فأصدق وأكن من الصالحين. ولن يؤخر الله نفسا إذا جاء أجلها والله خبير بما تعملون. صدق الله العظيم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وما أنفقتم من نفقة أو نذرتم من نذر فإن الله يعلمه وما للظالمين من أنصار. إن تبدوا الصدقات فنعما هي وإن تخفوها وتؤتوها الفقراء فهو خير لكم ويكفر عنكم من سيئاتكم والله بما تعملون خبير. ليس عليك هداهم ولكن الله يهدي من يشاء وما تنفقوا من خير فلأنفسكم وما تنفقون إلا ابتغاء وجه الله وما تنفقوا من خير يوفى إليكم وأنتم لا تظلمون. للفقراء الذين أحصروا في سبيل الله لا يستطيعون ضربا في الأرض يحسبهم الجاهل أغنياء من التعفف تعرفهم بسيماهم لا يسألون الناس إلحافا وما تنفقوا من خير فإن الله به عليم الذين ينفقون أموالهم بالليل والنهار سرا وعلانية فلهم أجرهم عند ربهم ولا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تلهكم أموالكم ولا أولادكم عن ذكر الله ومن يفعل ذلك فأولئك هم الخاسرون. وأنفقوا مما رزقناكم من قبل أن يأتي أحدكم الموت فيقول ربي لولا أخرتني إلى أجل قريب فأصدق وأكن من الصالحين ولن يؤخر الله نفسا إذا جاء أجلها والله خبير بما تعملون. صدق الله العظيم.
In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. And whatever charity you give, or whatever vow you vow, be sure that Allah knows it all, and the unjust shall have no helpers. If you give charity openly, it is well, and if you hide it and give it to the poor, it is better for you. This will do away with some of your evil deeds, and Allah is well aware of what you do. O Prophet, it is not required of you to set them on the right path, but Allah sets those whom He pleases on the right path. Whatever good you give benefits your own souls, and you do not spend but to seek Allah's pleasure. Whatever good you give shall be paid back to you in full, and you shall not be wronged. Charity is for those in need, those in Allah's cause that are restricted from travel and cannot go about the land. The ignorant ones may, without knowing, assume that because of their modesty they are free from want. But you shall know them by their constant habit. They do not beg openly from all and everyone, and whatever good thing you spend, surely Allah knows it well. As for those who give charity by night and by day, secretly and publicly, their reward is with Allah. On them they shall have no fear, nor shall they grieve. I seek refuge from the accursed devil. O you who believe, let not your properties nor your children distract you from remembering Allah. If any act like this, the loss is their own. And spend something in charity out of the sustenance that we have bestowed upon you, before death should come to any of you, and he should say, My Lord, why did you not give me relief for a little while? I should then have given largely in charity, and I should have been among those who do good deeds. And Allah grants relief to none when the appointed time for it has come, and Allah knows well of all that you do.
Thank you so much for that beautiful recitation. I want to welcome you all to the Let Palestine Shine fundraising dinner hosted by the United Muslim Relief Texas chapter. We have a few things planned for you all tonight, one of which includes a silent auction we have going throughout the night. It's located on the left wall, and you are all welcome to take a look at the pieces, and we very much encourage you guys to place a bid on one or both of the items for tonight. As you all know, this fundraising dinner is an effort to aid and raise awareness for the dental relief program, free trade, and maintenance of the Al Rawad School in Palestine. One way we have been trying to raise awareness about Palestine is through the strong powers of social media. How many of you guys have a Twitter? There you go, don't lie. I know everyone has a Twitter or a Facebook or an Instagram. I see you, Noor. So pull out your phones. I'm sure they're already out. and tweet away hashtag Let Palestine Shine and help us get this trending. I want to recognize some key individuals who have joined us for tonight. First of all, thank you Sheikh Umar from Oasis Mosque for leading the prayers. We're also very lucky to have the new officers of United Muslim Relief from the newly formed University of Houston chapter here to join us shortly tonight. And I'd like to thank Shafi Khan, the founder of United Muslim Relief, for taking his time out and flying down to Austin for this program. Last but not least, we are extremely excited to have our keynote speaker, Noor Taguri, here to join us all the way from DC. The next speaker I would like to call up has made a tremendous impact on the University of Texas. This individual took out countless days and nights out of his time to bring this organization to what it is today. With his constant commitment, time, and nagging, which we all do appreciate, he made this dream of having our first annual fundraising dinner a reality. And although we are very sad that we are going to have to lose him after this year, his influence will continue to keep this organization strong and growing, inshallah. Please give a big round of applause to our president and founder of the United Muslim Relief Texas chapter, Kumail Hassan.
Guard your light and protect it. Move forward. Sorry, let me wear my glasses. Sorry about that. That's okay. Here you go. I'm sorry, guys. Sorry about that. Guard your light and protect it. Move forward into the world and be fully confident that if we connect light to light to light and join the lights together of the 1 billion young people in our world today, we will be enough to set our whole planet aglow. This was by Hassad Abiola. Sheikh Umar, Shafi, Noor, and our guests from the great state of Texas. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Kumail Hassan, and I am the founder and president of the United Muslim Relief Texas chapter. I want to welcome you all guys out tonight. It just hit me how far this organization has come in the last couple of years as I'm standing here and looking at this great sized crowd and everybody that's here. In our first year at the chapter, as a chapter at this specific university, we did a fundraiser for Hurricane Sandy. A campaign drive to feed the homeless in Austin, including multiple Project Downtown events. And we raised over $20,000 in partnership with the Lone Star Council and MSAs across Texas for Syria relief. Today, we are hosting our first ever fundraising dinner for the United Muslim Relief Palestine fundraiser. And I have to say, it's definitely a beautiful thing. The reason why I am here today in front of you guys is to let you know that our ability to make a difference in the local and international community will go as far as your support. As a national organization and as a local chapter, we're just a bunch of college students that are trying to change the world in any way that we can. Our goal as a chapter is not only to help others, but also to inspire future leaders of the community. Throughout humanitarian services, with the help of humanitarian service work, you have the ability not only to unite people of members of your religion, but also to unite people from all over the world. Whether we are helping a homeless person on the streets of Austin, giving hope to the children of the Tasheret orphanage in Mexico, providing dental relief to hundreds of people across the world, we are committed to not only helping people because it is our duty and we are in a position privileged to help people, but it is simply our duty. The elders of the community often say that the youth are the future. We want to show you that if we have a united youth, we could change the world. We are all here today, but let us remember that whatever we do, there's always something bigger than us. Today, that is Palestine and the people of Palestine. Let us not forget our brothers and sisters across the world that are trying to reach out to us, but haven't been heard yet. We want to be their voice. As I want to see, and you all want to see, let Palestine shine. Thanks so much.
Assalamu alaikum. Alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. My name is Shafi Khan. First of all, jazakumullah khair everyone that came out tonight. Austin is a very, very beautiful city, mashallah, and this is a very, very beautiful hall. And first of all, thanks, Jazakallah khair to Kamil and all the officers that are involved. First, let me just clarify the name change, why you're seeing the name Muslims Without Borders and United Muslim Relief. We were launched under the name Muslims Without Borders. SubhanAllah, we never expected it to grow like it did. And another organization called Doctors Without Borders pretty much goes after organizations that are using the Without Borders. They feel they own the trademark. And instead of a costly legal battle, we decided to settle with them and change our name to United Muslim Relief. So you guys caught us right in the middle of a transition. This change was actually announced just last week. So inshallah, over the next few weeks, we're going to be fully transitioning to UMR. I was going to come up here and talk to you about our projects in Palestine and go over numbers and statistics and discuss building wells and helping the children's schools, fair trade, which is very, very important. But watching this video after a long time, it's just really, really reminded me of why we started what we started. And SubhanAllah, what you saw in that video was all put together. This entire project was put together by students that are in their 20s, college students that came together and put a beautiful project together. I just really want to go back and introduce how we started and what we are. It's our first time here. So I'm just going to give you guys the story of UMR. And if I say MWB in there, please forgive me. I'm still actually getting used to the change myself. And this actually started 3 years ago. I remember, actually a little bit more than 3 years ago. I remember when my first son was born, I started to go through a phase in life where I was questioning, what's it all about? And I guess an early midlife crisis, as my wife called it. And one day I was at work and I had just been promoted, alhamdulillah, and I had a good job and insurance, benefits, everything. And I got an email from my masjid saying that there was a widow in the street with 3 children. And it was very cold, it was December. And if someone could donate towards her. And I remember I got together with a few friends and we ended up raising enough money to get her off the street for about a year. And I went into my CEO's office the next day and actually quit my job. And I don't want to recommend anyone to take that path. I don't want parents upset at me if anyone decides to drop out of school. Always make wise decisions. For me, it just led up to that. And the CEO said, Shafi, I've been seeing what you guys have been doing the last couple of days. Just come back tomorrow and we'll start over. And the next day I went in and I handed my resignation and I left. And I wasn't sure what it is that I wanted to do. And I remember I ended up at an HIV orphanage in Panama. It was started by a nun. And I just went down there just to spend time with her and at the orphanage. And she had started this orphanage when people were very afraid of AIDS and HIV and they didn't know what it was. And I asked her, what did people say to you when you started this? And she said they asked me if I was crazy. And I said, I'm getting that a lot these days. And she said, don't worry, it's good. And so eventually I came back to the US and I still had no idea what I wanted to do. And I remember Ramadan came and I decided to go somewhere for Ramadan. I wasn't sure where. And I was on this travel website where you get these travel deals. And I got an email in my inbox that said there was a round trip to Lima, Peru for like $320, including taxes, of all places. And so I booked it for the last week of Ramadan. And I found a masjid outside Lima, Peru. And they all thought I was Spanish, so they didn't bother me. And so I just locked myself in there and I just prayed. And I asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for guidance. And the second to last day before I left, this young man came up to me and he tapped me on my shoulder and he said, are you from the States? And I said, yes, how did you know? And he said, I saw you in here yesterday and you had a shirt on that said IRUSA and I figured you were from the States. He turned out to be a really, really smart young guy, mashallah, named Tanvir from Australia. Eventually went on to graduate from Harvard. Very, very bright boy. And he was in Peru for a development conference. And so he said, let's go out and get something to eat. And we found a halal restaurant. At least they told us it was halal. We'll take their word for it. And I spent the next few hours with Tanvir just talking to him. And he was also going through a difficult stage in life. I wasn't sure what he wanted to do. And so I just sat and we spoke. And the next morning I flew out of Lima, Peru, and came back to the States. And I remember flying back, I said, maybe nothing came out of that, or at least I helped that young kid, find his way. And I forgot about Peru, and I came back to the States, and I was really, really blessed. I had a friend, a mutual friend, who introduced me to someone. He said, I know a guy that 25 years ago went to Sudan. He was working for British Petroleum. And he went to Sudan and he saw poverty and he came back. He had a great job and he quit his job and he started an organization. And that organization is Islamic Relief USA. And he had since resigned from IR USA. He was the CEO and founder, and he was working as the president of MAS, which is an organization I'm involved with. He said, you should meet him. So I met Dr. Ahmed, and within a few minutes of meeting Dr. Ahmed, he actually offered me a job. And I actually ended up spending a year working for Dr. Ahmed and learning everything I could about the field and the industry. Camille, could you tell me if there's like a 10-minute mark? Just let me know, because I can just go on forever, unfortunately. And so spending a year working for Dr. Ahmed, and then Haiti happened. And I don't know if you guys remember the earthquake in Haiti. By the way, I'm going to get back to Peru a little bit later. That wasn't a random story. And Haiti happened, and it was one of those moments where the world's attention was focused on one place. And this happens when there's major disasters. That happens every 4 or 5 years. Indonesia was one of those disasters. And suddenly the world cared because the cameras were everywhere. And within 48 hours, I was in Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic. The island of Hispaniola, half of it is Dominican Republic and half of it is Haiti. And landing in Santo Domingo with a student from George Mason University, and we really didn't know, what we were doing there. We ended up going to the Islamic Center of Santo Domingo, and we found a group of Muslims from Trinidad. By the way, mashallah, some of the most beautiful people I've ever met. And there was another group from London. And all of us decided to put an aid convoy together. And the brothers from London had some experience before. So we rented 2 trucks and we filled them with food. And we filled it with so much food that we left that night at midnight. And I remember 10 minutes into our trip, we noticed we had packed the trucks heavy on one side, not having any experience. And we had to come back and unload the trucks all the way and then pack it evenly. And we left at Fajr that morning. And I remember it was an 8-hour drive into Port-au-Prince, and we were tired and exhausted, and we really didn't know what to expect. Reaching the border, it was completely lawless. There was nothing on the Haitian side. And we decided we're just going to go. And at that very moment, a huge United Nations convoy was coming through, and they let us just hop into their convoy. And we went all the way to Port-au-Prince. And subhanAllah, when we reached Port-au-Prince, I remember people were running up to us and they were asking us for masks. And not just food and water. I don't know if you've ever smelled the smell of death before. For me, it was the first time. And it really, really hit you. Port-au-Prince is like a concrete jungle. There's really no place to bury the bodies. And hundreds of thousands of people were dead. And I remember some streets you would go through in the dark that night, and it would just hit you because you knew multiple people had died in this building. It was a real eye-opening experience for me. And finally, we reached the masjid in Port-au-Prince, and around this masjid, the Muslims had set up a camp, and they were giving food and water to anyone. It didn't matter whether you practiced Christianity or voodoo or whatever. It was at that moment everyone was Haitian. And I remember pulling into the masjid, and they opened the doors, and they came out and they said, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, our du'as have been answered, our brothers have come with aid. And subhanAllah, that was the moment. That was the moment where I realized that this is what I want to do. And I came back to the States, and I met with a group of students at George Mason University in Fairfax, Virginia. And we decided that we're going to launch something, and that's how Muslims Without Borders was born. And our first project, actually, and by this time in Haiti, there was a cholera epidemic happening. And we did some research on cholera and discovered that waterborne illness can be reduced by, I think, up to 33% just because of good hygiene. So we decided to make hygiene kits and send them to Haiti. And all across the US, from Connecticut to Florida to Washington, students all over the US got together and made thousands of hygiene kits, soap, antibacterials, baby wipes, and even rehydration salts. Even Gatorade works, actually. Cholera is we've seen a lot of death, and cholera is one of the worst ways you can die. It's basically you just dehydrate. It's a really, really, really horrible death, and a very scary death to be in cholera wards because it's so contagious also. And then we had a slight problem. We had no money. We had no way to get these kits to Haiti, and we hadn't thought that far ahead. And at this time, Tanvir, who I had met in Lima, he found me on Facebook and he started poking me and he said, Shafi, I gotta talk to you. And I was, stressed, and I said, what's wrong with this guy now? And subhanAllah, I called him back in Sydney, and he said, Shafi, after I went home to Sydney, I decided that I wanted to do something different, and I took a chance, and I got a job with this agency called Muslim Aid Australia. They took a chance with me, and they hired me, and I said, well, what's your position? And he said, I'm the International Programs Manager. And I said, well, what's that mean? And he said, well, I find great projects and I fund them. And subhanAllah, 2 weeks later, we had our grant for $20,000 from Muslim Aid America. And that's how we launched our first project. And what I always tell the young people that are working with our chapters across the US is just really everything comes out of sincerity. No matter what you do, just be sincere for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I really, really feel that's why this organization, alhamdulillah, is just really, really blessed and growing, expanding all over the US. Gotten a little bit too big too fast sometimes, actually. But we actually went on to become the first relief agency to enter Libya. I remember during the revolution, we were so fast inside that Jazeera called me when I was in Cairo, and they said, can we ride in with you? And we delivered a convoy of medications to Benghazi while the city was still burning. And one of the unknown stories about was that Jazeera did their first story, and Los Angeles Times was with us too. We took several relief agencies with us, press agencies. Did their first story inside, and during that delivery, and we went on to become one of the first to start delivering and working inside Syria. And I've been blessed to have be on 7 missions in the last 2 years inside Syria, and our organization is a little different. We actually work on the front lines. We deliver aid, and alhamdulillah, it's just growing, and our projects in Palestine are growing. We've launched a volunteer abroad department also, where we have a group of sisters that go every year to the Tasha orphanage in Mexico, and it's one of our most beautiful projects, where they spend their days working with orphans, and in the evenings there's self-development classes. So they come back, self-enrichment classes, excuse me. So they come back stronger people, ready to serve humanity, and that's where our logo comes in, development through service, where we feel that we're just not trying to help people overseas, but at the same time help young students grow themselves. Our students have went on to join some of the biggest agencies in the world. Alhamdulillah, we're really, really blessed. And just in the last 2 weeks, we brought in a new CEO. I remember 4 years ago when I was going through the phase when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do was I interviewed at Islamic Relief USA with the CEO. And as of last week, he actually resigned from Islamic Relief USA, and he's become our CEO. So, alhamdulillah, it's an organization that's it's growing right now. And jazakumullah khair for everyone that's come out. I ask you more than anything to make dua for all these young students that are just working day and night. They inspire me so much to put our beautiful projects together. And if anyone has questions, I'm available. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
really don't know how I'm going to follow that. I really don't. So I wanted to first mention Shafi here. He is a huge inspiration to everybody back in the DMV, the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. And he's the prime example of really doing everything to make something possible and directly changing thousands and thousands of people's lives. And it really is a youth-based organization, so everybody who gets involved really has their lives changed. And if you guys are sitting here right now, you should feel very, very honored, because I am extremely humbled and feel extremely honored to be here right now. I'm just in awe right now. So I wanted to start out and talk about passion. And I believe what really drives a person's passion is, when it comes to a cause or social justice, is what pains them the most. And it's that passion that keeps you up at night. It's that passion that makes you daydream during the day because you keep thinking about a picture that you saw, or a video that you watched, or a status that was posted, or an article that you read. And it's one of those things that you really just can't get out of your mind. And a lot of times I feel that pain or that passion comes from either personal experience, or it comes from a direct link. So whether somebody is going through something that you know of, or whether you've heard a story, or if it's you yourself. And I don't think that feeling comes out of nowhere. I don't think that our conscience has this feeling just to have it. I think that it's our responsibility to act upon that feeling. And I think it's a reminder that being an observer of something that's going on that's wrong, and that's really keeping you up at night, or that's igniting some type of fire in you, is a step, or needs to be a step to something that you're going to do to change that situation. I know that sitting and watching videos like this, or hearing about stories like this, and knowing that a person who needs help is hard to watch sometimes, but it's a moment of reflection and understanding that sometimes it'll be harder to be on the other end and to be the one who's asking for help. And I know we've all been there. Everybody's asked for help at one point in time. Everybody's been in a situation where they feel that they're alone, or they need something, or somebody to relate to them, or to kind of give them that push forward. And I really think that finding the cause that really makes you tick, or really makes you want to make that change, is what we should be doing right now. And so I wanted to share a story with you guys. For the past 7 or 8 years, my family and I have been working closely with a shelter for battered women and children. And since we've been working with that shelter, my passion for helping these women has grown tremendously. I've heard stories, and I've witnessed these women telling my mom stories that the most famous drama author could never write, and these horror stories that have kept me up at night. And then when you talk to women about it, and you talk to people around you about it, you realize that they're not the only ones. And I can't describe to you the immense pain that people, especially these women, go through, and feel as if that they're the only ones who are going through it. I went to Rome and Sicily this spring to go and study sexual and domestic violence, because I wanted to learn more about it and be able to understand the issue more. And what I came back learning is that it doesn't discriminate between socioeconomic status, it doesn't discriminate between first and third world countries, not race, not gender, not any, it doesn't discriminate. It's across all boards. And so when I came back and I talked to my mom about it, and I listened to more of these stories, I started talking to my friends about it, and I realized that a lot of my friends have gone through the same situations, and that really 1 in 3 women have been sexually abused. And I mean, we're sitting in a room filled with women, and you may not know that you're sitting next to a victim or survivor. And so so that's the cause that pains me the most, and that keeps me up at night. And my point isn't to go into to this cause because that's how we're here. My point is that every time you see something or you have a memory of going through an issue or going through something or knowing somebody else has gone through something, it's something that you have to take responsibility and act upon. And it's something that you have to fight for, whether it's fighting for the person or fighting for yourself. And I think the best way to do that is to combine your skills and your passion and to fight for whatever it is that is the cause that you feel that way about. When I was 8 years old, I would come home and throw my book bag on the ground and sit and watch Oprah with my mom at 4 p.m. every single weekday. And I was so in love with the way that she would tell stories and ask questions and give a voice to people. And it was the most common people who just had a story that would captivate you. And I knew I wanted to do the same thing that she did and share other people's stories and give a voice to those who didn't have it. And through that, movements were created and communities were created and people were given a platform to speak. And so I was really determined to do that, and my passion grew since then for storytelling. And so if you're not familiar with the Let North Shine campaign, I started it last December when I publicly announced that I wanted to be a broadcast journalist, and I started it so that I could encourage people to live for what they're passionate about and what they want to change, and the fire that really burned inside of them. And Nur means light, so it really translates to let light shine. And the light isn't about my name, it's about the light of truth and passion and inspiration. And so, and actually the person who came up with that hashtag is, she was on the board of the United Muslim Relief back in Maryland. And so we really came together and we put this together. And so anyway, I'm tying everything in, don't worry. One day, my mom and I, this is back in June, we went to the shelter and we were going to drop off food donations and clothes donations that people in the community had given us to drop off. And there was a family that always comes, and we always end up giving them, like, they always come to pick up some stuff because they also know, they were a needy family and they also know other families. And the family has two of their children are blind and 2 of them are autistic. There's 7 kids. And I was talking to the 13-year-old boy who was blind for the first time. I had always seen him, but I had never spoken to him. And I asked him a question that I ask almost everybody that I meet, and I asked him what he wanted to be when he grew up, because I feel that asking a person that and finding that out about a person is really what helps you understand the person or helps you understand what drives them. So I asked him what he wanted to be when he grew up, and he told me a blacksmith. He told me he wanted to make locks. And I was in awe because this is a little 13-year-old boy and he was blind and he was telling me he wanted to be a blacksmith, and I just wanted to find out more. And so he was telling me that he had read stories about blacksmith and he found a program for blacksmithing for blind people, and the program had to be 16 years old and it was $500. And his mom came to us and was asking us what we were talking about. So I told her, and we were getting really excited. And she knew about the course, but she was telling me how it was $500, and that was something that their family probably wouldn't be able to afford in 3 years for him. And I couldn't stand the thought that $500 was going to get in the way of him not being able to accomplish this dream of becoming a blacksmith or a locksmith. And so I remember going in the car and telling my mom that when he was 16, I wanted to make that happen. It's easy. $500 is something that's easy. We can get raised or whatever we needed to do. Then a few days later, that night his mom messaged me saying he was extremely excited about becoming a blacksmith one day now that he had hope. And a few days later, she messaged me and mentioned that he had lost his glasses. And so he wore these red glasses that allowed him to open his eyes in the daylight and that allowed him to stay out of, for his eyes not to be in pain. And she mentioned that, they were struggling, and she was just telling me, it was a casual conversation, it wasn't anything, but to replace those glasses would cost $450 that the family definitely did not have. And so that night, I wanted to combine, it was subhanAllah, it was crazy how we were at the shelter and we had just heard these stories of these women, so I was in the place of where I really am passionate about wanting to help out these women and tell their story or help them in any way I can. And then I come home and there's this little interaction between me and this boy, and then I come home and I found out this, and that boy had inspired me so much, so I used my passion about telling stories, which is the skill that I wanted to utilize, and told the boy's story and posted it on social media. And within an hour, just simply for telling his story, we were able to raise triple the amount of what his glasses were from people all over the world who donated from $3 to $160. It was really simple. And now saying this story, I feel a little silly because Shafi had just told such great stories, but it really comes down to the little things. And this is just a pair of glasses that I never thought. So I thought if I was going to raise anything, it was going to be $20, and then I'd find out a way to pay for the rest or something. But I will never forget that night. And I remember telling my parents that this is the best thing that the Let Noah Shine campaign had ever touched. This is the best thing. I remember crying and saying I never expected something like this to happen. It was so moving to me. And I remember calling his mother that night and telling her, like I could barely get the words out, and I remember telling her, your son is going to get his glasses. And she just broke down in tears, and it was the most, I will never forget the feeling, it was the most inspiring moment. And so I knew that telling stories really, really can change people's lives. All I did was tell a story, and I did it with the passion that I really wanted this boy to get what he needed, and I really believed that he has a chance in accomplishing this dream, whether it is to become a blacksmith or whatever he ends up deciding to be, but I did not want that to stop him. And so utilizing that simple skill that I really love to do, was able to help him do to get what he needed. And that was really the day that confirmed to me that the power of using your voice and the power of doing what you love, whether it is telling a story, whether it is going out and capturing pictures or building bridges or prescribing medicine, whatever it is, the small things that really, really, really change people's lives is what counts. And I remember the next day he had written a letter, and his mother sent me a picture of the letter, and his handwriting, like I was amazed that he wrote. It wasn't as legible as anybody else's handwriting, but it was legible enough for me to make it out. And I remember I wrote down the last 2 lines of his letter, and he said, my mom sends her love and she's still crying. She won't stop crying, and it makes her sad when me and my sister need new glasses and we have to wait for a really long time to get new ones, and you made that better. And it's a very simple line. He just wrote that, but I thought about that for weeks on end, and I'll never forget that feeling. And I really believe that small encounters like that, when you meet people, they're neither your friend nor your enemy, they are your teacher, and you are their student. And I really believe that you are also their teacher and they are your student, and that's how we should interact with people. And I really learned so much from that boy. He was my teacher that day, and really making the difference of bringing people together and creating a community. These people who are, and they're the people who donate. I'm still so thankful to these people who made this simple boy's dream come true. But it brought together a community. People were able to come together and do something, and it was a small cause, and it happened within an hour. And sometimes I get a little weary about sharing that story or asking people or telling people about the shelter, because I know, you know, the whole saying of when you help out or when you give charity, you don't really talk about it. But I see it in the way that when you do help out or when you do something like this, you're giving other people the chance to do good. So simply voicing, oh, here's an opportunity to give or to help, whether you're giving your time or your money. If you don't have money and you have time, then give your time. If you don't have time and you have money, then give money. But that small opportunity, that's why I don't really like when people talk about giving donations and people who nag about giving donations, because they're doing you a favor. They're giving you an opportunity. They're giving you a chance to do something great, to do good for another person, to get great deeds, to change somebody's life. So the entirety of you believing, a person believing that they own their money or that they are in control of their time is a facade. And understanding that the money that a person has in their pocket is a responsibility, and it's you're borrowing it, and it's up to you how you choose to use it. But at the end of the day, you're going to be asked for how you used it. And so for those that night, I just remember all the people. I remember people sending me messages who donated $3 or $4 and saying, "I'm so sorry. I don't have a lot of money myself, but this is all I had." And I felt that what they gave was more than the $160 that another person gave because they could have. Because what they gave was really something that they had earned, that they're giving to give to a cause. And so that's why we're here today, and I'm not going to obviously start fundraising, but really think about the empowerment that you have when you have a skill and when you have a cause that you're really passionate about. For me, it's human trafficking and domestic violence and sexual violence, because I've seen the bruises on women. I've heard the stories. I've stayed up at night because I can't fall asleep knowing that somebody's going through this right now, that 1 out of 3 women are going through this, that the people that you would never imagine in a million years are the ones who are going through this. And that's what kept me up, and that's why I aspire to become a reporter and tell stories. People always ask me what my dream job is, and I used to just say I want to be a news anchor, or I want to be like Oprah one day. But really, my dream job would be, ideally one day, would be to be similar to Nicholas Kristof and go to different countries and combat human trafficking and break into brothels and get stories of the slaves that are in there, because there are 25 million or 27 million slaves, women, who are trafficked at the current moment in the world. And so that instead of just staying up at night and thinking about this, I'm actually I'm doing something with my hand, with my pen, with my voice, and giving a voice to people. And so I really want people to think about it for a moment, think about what it is that keeps you up at night, and what it is that you feel pains you the most because of something that you've seen, or something that you've heard, or something that you're going through, and how it is that you're going to change it, whether it is giving donations today, or giving your time and volunteering, or writing a story about it, or voicing it. Because a lot of times I think people think that they're alone in whatever situation they're in, whether it is domestic violence, whether it is financial problems, whether it is bullying, whatever it is. A lot of people, especially in the Muslim community, people think that they're alone all the time, because a lot of things are quote unquote seen as shameful to talk about, or it's just a disgrace, or whatever excuse that a lot of older people may say to us. But it really, I think what's shameful is when we keep things to ourselves and we don't talk about it to each other, so that we don't, because in turn we don't help each other, and we don't make the difference that we're supposed to be making. And so I want to just leave you guys with that, and understand that you have the power to bring people together and create communities and create a movement. And really, at the end of the day, if you know that you're living for a cause, that you're bringing ease to the pain of others, or you're bringing ease to your own pain, then I really think that's just a great day. Thanks.
Anguish, because we wish we could help them, and we would be rushing towards them, trying to help. And so in that manner, please respond as loudly as you can, because I know you have it in you. Let Palestine shine. MashaAllah, that's better. One more time. Let Palestine shine. You guys are getting good. Maybe I should just do this the rest of the night. It's kind of fun. One more time. So give me your all right? Let Palestine shine. Awesome. So now that you're all loosened up and you're engaged, I want to tell you a story. I feel like this night has been a night of stories. And it's about when I went to Iraq this past winter break for pilgrimage, ziyarats, and I just finished my prayers. And so I was walking back to my hotel. One thing that you should all know about, one thing that you all should know about me is that I absolutely adore kids. I love them. It's almost creepy how much I love them. And so I was walking back to my hotel, and there was this little girl about yay high. I would say she's about 4 to 5, and she was holding her little brother's hand, who might be 2 to 3. I thought this was the cutest thing ever. And I was walking behind them, and so I was just smiling with, my big smile and completely oblivious to the world around me. And then I looked down at her feet, and her feet were blackened. They had calluses, they had tar, and God knows what else. And that wasn't the only thing that hit me. She was walking in slippers that were about 4 to 5 times too big for her own feet. So if you can imagine this very precious little girl and holding her little brother's hand, and her feet blackened are in sandals that are too big, and so when she's walking, she's struggling. And now, I know when I wear my dress shoes to classes, I complain that it hurts and that it rubs against my feet, but I can only imagine the situation where you're 4 to 5 years old and your already tarred and calloused feet have to bear the burden of oversized slippers. And so the sort of this scene that I was witnessing, it hit me really hard. And so my first reaction was like, how do I help? I have plenty of money. I should do something to help this little girl right now. And just to let me preface with this, the story is about my single biggest regret of my ziyarats. I thought about how I could help this little girl, and I thought, okay, well, I have the money. I can give her money so she can buy sandals. And I was like, no. If I give her money for sandals, the other kids might bully her, steal it, or maybe she'll lose it, or maybe her parents might take it for something else. And I thought about all the bad things that could go wrong when I would give money to this little girl. Almost in similarities to when people who are homeless here will ask for money, and you think about all the bad ways that they will use money. Obviously not a direct example, but in that same sort of comparison, I was thinking about all the bad things that would happen. And so I didn't give the little girl money. Instead, I spent my whole time thinking about how I could help her. I was like, okay, so maybe I can go find a shop, buy her sandals, run back in time, and give her sandals. And by the time I had the courage and the commitment and resolve to do that, I looked up, because at this whole time I was, in my own thoughts, and I was unaware of the world around me. So as soon as I looked to help this little girl, she was gone. And that's the end of the story. I go back to my hotel, I finish my ziyarats, I come home, and everyone's asking me how it went. What was the experience like, so on and so on. And I will tell you to this day, and anytime you come up to me and ask me again, that my single biggest regret was not being able to help that little girl. And it was all because I was too busy thinking and not enough doing. I think that sort of line can be applied to a lot of things in our lives. We do a lot of thinking and not enough doing. There is, of course, a certain amount of consideration that you have to do when you're doing charity, right? Even Islamically, you don't want to give to charity where that charity is then used in haram ways. But beyond that, I think we can all agree we spend too much time thinking and not enough doing. And so I want to narrate this story to you because I think it speaks to this event right now. We are all very fortunate, not only to be in this beautiful venue, but to be living in this country, to have the education that we have, to have the parents and the security that we have. But we also are very fortunate, I don't think a lot of people think about it this way, but we are also very fortunate in the fact that it is very, very, very easy for us to impact the world in a real way. If I was in a third world country, if I wanted to do something for hundreds of people, how would I do that? There isn't a framework for me to do that. But here in America, it's very simple. You eat a meal and you give money. It's as simple as that, and the impact is immeasurable. And so with that being said, I want to end on this, I think, a very hard truth, that this is an opportunity for you to give back. It's an opportunity for you to help a little girl, even though you can't see her. Don't spend your time thinking about it, do it. It's really as simple as that. You spend your life thinking too much, you'll miss this opportunity, and you won't have this opportunity ever again. You will miss out on other opportunities because you're thinking about giving then as well. And before you know it, you will have either ran out of opportunities, or your time here on this world, on this dunya, is over. So take advantage of this time, of this moment, to please open your wallets, open your hearts, and give out to this charity. All the money, as has been explained so articulately, is given to very great causes, and done so and facilitated by very bright and strong individuals. And so your money will be going to a great place. With that being said, there should be pledge cards placed on your table. If you can fill those out at the end of dinner, we'll pick those up, and we would appreciate your donations. If you have any questions about how to pledge, please come up to me. I'll answer any of your questions. And with that being said, dinner should be served. I'm going to go ahead and take care of that. And thank you again for coming, and I hope you enjoy the food. Thank you.